So I kind of talked to you a little bit about this earlier, but if you want to go to the next level, maybe we could just kind of talk back and forth about our own philosophical views in this world.
Sure.
If you're okay with that.
Sure.
And so what I have is what I feel is that we have a hard time communicating. I think there's a communication breakdown with religion and politics to where people are so set on their views that they can't accept anybody else's or look at anybody else's. And the second that it comes to a problem like that or talking about it, our views are so different, we argue and fight. And so what I'm trying to break down is the ability for us to argue and fight, and to where we can peacefully talk this out instead of just fighting, because I think the government gets a lot of their power from our division and making us fight, and they're just constantly pushing things on us every week to try and divide us as much as they can. Divide and conquer, divide and conquer. And if we could get to the point to where, you know what, I don't agree with that other person at all over there, I don't like what they're doing, but I can sit down and talk to them and figure out and work for solutions to where we can all get along and coexist in this world. And that's what I'm trying to get to fundamentally at the bottom of all this. And so what I have is I have a game that's called Throw Burrito. And so we're going to be talking about crazy, intense, way down the rabbit hole, the most hard things to talk about in this world. But this game is where it's a kid's game, and when you throw burritos at each other, you get what's called a burrito bruise. And so it's going to be a way to kind of take out the tension when it gets a little deep, or when things get a little bad. So there's 3 bruises there for you. And once you give away all your bruises, we may have to pause the conversation and just make sure that we're still on the right course and we're not turning into a fight or an argument or something. So if at any point, not just, if I say something that you don't like or don't like, you can't just give me a bruise for that. But if I come at you personally and I say, Dan, you're a piece of crap or something like that, you say, you know what, that is out of line. You came at me with a personal attack. This is no longer philosophy, because what I'm trying to do is talk philosophy and the thoughts of this stuff to where we can, exchange ideas and stuff and maybe accept them or not accept them or whatever, but to where we can just sit and talk about this without fighting, because I know from us, we have a lot of views that align, but we also have a lot of views that don't align. And I think that everybody has that, and we all have that. And so if we could just find a way to just kind of get along a little better, that's kind of what I'm searching for, man. And so, I don't have any structure to this. I'm obviously flying by the seat of my pants, man. So I'm just trying to do what I can to make the world better. But, whichever one you want to go down, I know you're really quite religious, and you really mentioned a lot about God and stuff. So maybe I could just kind of give my perspective.
Sure.
And explain my perspective a little bit. So with my perspective, I see that I've seen a lot of things in this world, and like prayer, I believe, is a real thing. I've seen that with my own eyes, and I've seen just the majesty of this world, and I see that the moon can affect our tides, and I see that everything in this world is connected through some kind of energy. So there is no denying that there is an energy, and we're all connected through it. And there's like wavelengths. So even watching this video right now, there's wavelengths going through the world and stuff that we don't see. So there's so much going on, like the magnetic ionosphere, the other colors that some animals can see, different color dimensions and stuff. So we're missing a lot of what's out there. So what is beyond what we don't know is beyond what we might be able to fathom, in my personal idea, So that's maybe where God comes in. And so what I look at is I see through all civilizations that, through my perspective, is that all governments use religion as a tool to get the ends of their means through all history, through all times. And whether it's not just one religion in general, it's all of them. All of them use religion as a tool to get what they want as far as governments. And so you can look and you can see how religions are manipulated a little bit. And I'm not trying to pick on any one religion or anything like this, but to break down my thought mindset here, I'm going to have to start with Mormons. And I'm not trying to say anything. I'm just talking about philosophically. I'm not trying to, please don't think I'm trying to like dog on religion or anybody's religion or anything like that. I'm talking philosophically, from a philosophical perspective. the way I understand Mormonism, and if I had a Mormon here, I could talk to them a little bit differently, and they might be able to give me perspectives I didn't know. So if there's any Mormons that would like to sit and talk, I appreciate it. But the way I understand it, there's a guy named John Smith, and so the way it works is that God talks through John Smith, and John Smith says, hey, this is what God told me. And at that point, John Smith is just the mediator between God and the people that are following the religion. And that's where basically Mormonism starts, as he says, well, God told me we can have multiple wives and we can have all this other stuff. Logically, from my perspective, I look at it and I go, well, that's, I wasn't there to see that happen. I didn't see God tell John Smith this, and I see where he could possibly be, manipulating things to make things his way, to prospering off this. And you could take that same mindset and look at it all throughout I know the Bible more than others, and so once again, I'm not trying to pick on the Bible, but even at the end of Revelation, they say that the very last words of the Bible are that you shall never, ever manipulate these words or change them in any way whatsoever. And so at that point, all the books that have been created are not what the original creator would have wanted, and that's just the original creator was what mankind put. So each book, so you got your King James version, which is a king putting his input out there, which I personally don't like government much, and I don't trust government. And so then you can go back before, and you got your codex, and every single version is a version that the Bible itself says you shouldn't have done this. It's blasphemy right off the start, and B, it's letting a king or someone change the words and possibly manipulate the words and form things to say completely like they shouldn't. So I feel like if we even go all the way back to the original Hebrew text that we don't even know or can't even see, and they say even the Codex, the original first Bible, it's not even all there. And then once you start taking out verses or adding verses, like there's even lost books of the Bible, you've now manipulated it into something that is way off, that is not meant to be. And And I feel that the Bible is a great history book, and it tells us a good story, and that there's a lot of good morals in it. And I love the aspect of the great morals and the great things in it. But when our governments manipulate those morals to twist someone's view to make us go to war and hurt somebody, that is when I have a major problem with it, because that's when it becomes no longer good. That's when it becomes something bad and is used as a bad tool. And I don't think that the positive message that these books or whatever behind it, the gods or whatever, would be okay with this mentality and what they're doing. And fundamentally, at the all of it, I believe that mankind has touched all these books and morphed them into their perspectives and their views to get more power. And that it's happened so long through so many centuries that we don't even know. We weren't there. And originally, when the earth was created, we weren't there. And even the very first Bible, when Moses got it or stuff, he was just Moses was basically like a John Smith and just the interpreter. And it's hard to trust the interpreter because we are man, and even if we're still flawed. No matter which view you take on it, I mean, we're not perfect. So I fundamentally believe that God is something bigger than all of us, and it's something that we don't even know, and that I'm trying to search and find it. And I don't know what it is or how it works, and I just think that the more input and more knowledge I can get from all sides, because I've seen points of all religions and every idea, even this being a digital false reality where the Mandela effect and stuff comes in, there's proof of that. So there's proof that this could be a digital reality. So I am just trying to search, and I don't think I'll ever have the answer, but I think it's something that we should be able to talk about, and just it's right. Fascinating, and just to exchange ideas and be like, that's a fascinating idea. I may not agree with it, or that's a fascinating perspective. I may not agree with it, but that's really cool. And so that's just basically my perspective. And so I'm just trying to learn and find out more along the way. And that's why I like asking people these questions, because you never know. Somebody may be able to say, look, this is hardcore proof, or this is what, and I believe in prayer. I've seen prayer work. So I can't deny that in any way. So I know that aspect works. But when it comes to following the Bible word for word, me personally, I feel that that's just not, I feel it's been manipulated by man. And even if I was, the closest people that are doing it are the Amish. I got a lot of respect for the Amish, because they live off the land. And me personally, I believe that God is more nature and the world around us, and how we're all connected, and how we need to respect these trees and respect life and on everything. Even trees and stuff, they've shown that they have feelings and emotions, and you hold a lighter to them, they pull away, and that they're connected more than what we think. So, I mean, even sometimes like vegetarians think that you know, if you just eat plants and stuff, that you're not taking a life, but you still are. Everything is life, and we're all connected, and we need to respect and acknowledge that we're all part of life. We're all connected, and I think that that's, to me, what kind of like what God is. I mean, the Indians believed that there were, they kind of worship nature, you know what I mean? And I really enjoy that aspect. And now, as far as all the other stuff, it gets a little, that's where I always get lost. But the main broad idea is what I really respect about that, you know what I mean? And I've just, like I said, so now, what do you think about?
Okay, you said a lot.
Right.
A lot to chew on.
Right.
Let's go back to the Mormon thing. Okay. You're right. In Revelation, John wrote not to add anything to or take away from this book.
Right.
The Mormon is a whole nother book they added on.
Right.
Thousands of years later. So I mean, that's just totally added on. Now, as far as different translations, you mentioned different translations. I actually know a guy lives here locally. He is actually, as you know, we have several different languages.
Right.
Well, if you only have that Bible in one language,
right,
that all the people around the world that don't speak that language can't understand it.
Right.
So they're not really changing what's in the Bible; they're changing the language. He actually, the guy I'm talking about, actually wrote a book. It's called the Bible. I think it's called Many Versions. Are they all the same? And they're different words, and it's worded different. But basically, it's just put into other people's language. Languages have even changed over time. I mean,
right.
The English we speak now is not the same English they spoke a few hundred years ago.
Right. And that's where I think that a lot of it gets lost, is once we cross that translation, the translator then gets to put his perception in there if he just tweaks stuff just a little bit, you know, like even this one's kind of it upsets people sometimes, but the sun could be perceived as the sun originally, like, you know, maybe even evil and dark is light and darkness, you know, and God and Satan, you know, light, nighttime, daytime. The sun is the actual sun, and just through somebody else's perception, when they translated it, they're like, well, sun, and it's just the same word translated, but when it goes through different people, and then like even the book of Enoch and stuff, when they take books out and don't even include those, that's a major deal. I mean, that's like, there's books that they've taken and not put in, and that's just
but who told you that was taken out? Who told you that was not put in?
Well, that's fair enough too. Too. But that's the same thing. So if you take that same mindset, you can say, okay, well, that's not there, but then I have to believe, take that same mentality and use that to believe, you know? So
right.
It's a
well, no. Here's the thing. There's a thing called faith. Without, the Bible says, without faith, it's impossible to please God. What faith involves is trusting Him and trusting His Word, and you don't just have to trust blindly. If you read the Old Testament and the New Testament, there are so many prophecies that Jesus fulfilled in the Old Testament thousands of years later that it's evidence. I mean, it just shows evidence that, oh my God, this is right, this is true. Jesus fulfilled hundreds of prophecies. I mean, hundreds, literally hundreds. Let me just go back to the beginning of how I came to believe. I grew up in church as a kid. As a kid, I always felt like when I did something wrong, you know, I could feel it, like, you know, when you're a kid, if you do something you're not supposed to do, you have a conscience. You feel that that's wrong. And I had that, and I felt wrong about stuff I did, and I was at church camp, and my counselor told me all about Jesus and told me the story about sin and forgiveness and why Jesus came to the earth, and I just got it, and I wanted it. I wanted that forgiveness. I wanted that forgiveness, that acceptance, because basically when man sinned, it separated us from God, and Jesus is basically the bridge between us and God, because he paid the penalty for us, the penalty of death, because when God created Adam and Eve, they were told there was only one thing that they couldn't do. They couldn't eat from the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. And they ate from that tree. The devil conned them into eating from that tree, and they fell for it, and they were cast out of the Garden of Eden. And
yeah,
I mean,
I just, me personally, I feel that I wasn't there, and that I'm trusting somebody else's. Just like you can't trust somebody's word that the book of Enoch was or wasn't there. I can't trust somebody's word that all of that happened. I need to see some kind of tangible or some kind of something, and that's just where I'm at, is that I've seen a lot of amazing things in my life, and things that could be attributed to God, but just not necessarily the I know it's going to upset people, but the book of the Bible, I more feel that the Bible and some things in there are taken way too literal, and that if everything was to be taken literal and some stuff cherry picked, that things would be much different. Like, once again, like back to the Amish, and then I don't know. I'm just searching for answers, and that's where I personally I look at things and I try to get the main message behind it and the idea of it, but I take everything with a grain of salt, if you will. You know what I mean?
I get it that you're searching for evidence. Some that could possibly help you. There's a book called The Case for Christ. It's actually written by an attorney who was a non-believer.
Right.
And I mean, he went after the Bible trying to disprove all this stuff.
Right.
And at the end, he's like, how can I not believe this?
Right.
I mean, that might be something that might...
Well, no. I'm not trying to disprove it at all. So like I said, it's a great history book. Like, there is absolutely no denying there was a massive flood. That is absolutely 100% a fact. You can look at the Sphinx and see that the Sphinx was underwater, and because there's erosion and stuff on it, and there's just even like shells at the top of mountains. You can find shells on mountaintops, which means that it was underwater at some point. So there is no denying that happened. Now, when it comes to certain things happening and the stories and stuff, I mean, those are believable stories. I'm not trying to say that some of them were a little more extreme, and I'm not trying to say that even those stories didn't happen. That's not what I'm trying to disprove. I'm not trying to disprove anything. I'm just trying to search for the bigger idea, the bigger...
Let me ask you this, Josh. Do you believe there was a man named Jesus Christ that was born and walked on this earth?
Yes.
So you believe that there was actually that man, Jesus Christ, that came and walked on this earth. Do you believe that he was hung on a cross?
Well, yeah.
Do you believe that he was raised to life on the third day? 3 days later?
I do not.
And walk the earth. See, that's the thing. There's some things you have to take by faith. We weren't there.
Right.
But there are so many prophecies in the Old Testament that Jesus fulfilled. I mean, it's just boom, boom, boom. And he talks about them. Jesus talks about...
But even if... Okay, so here's my perspective. Let's say that I do believe, and that Jesus did rise and all this stuff, and let's say I believe 100% in the Bible. I still believe our leaders are using our Bible, and even some religions are using, and some forms of religion are using the Bible as their own game.
That's on them.
I get that.
That's on them.
I get that. But that's the problem with the world right now, is that our leaders run everything, and they're using these great tools to influence the minds of people that has created a bad world, or has created a world where we're really struggling and fighting into where it doesn't look good for future generations. And I'm trying to fix things for my kids. And how do I break this down to where we can overcome the crap that the government's doing and where we can just get along? Like, I don't have a problem with you believing in Jesus or the Bible or any of that in any way. It's when our government somehow tricks our people that are good-hearted people, Christians that love each other, to go out into wars and kill each other and drop bombs on each other and kill children, and somehow believe that's morally right still. And I know that this is Memorial Day and we shouldn't be talking about this in this manner. This is terrible. But this is terrible. But I've went over this with some people, and even a veteran that has been in wars, and there's no denying that mankind will always fight. We will always fight. We can't take that away from us. And my idea and solution for this is to say, look, killing innocent women and children are wrong, and let's find a way to battle on our own terms. So there's this island called Snake Island, and I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, but if we just wiped out the snakes on Snake Island and we had contracts to where we could go there and have wars, we could even televise it, and countries could just go and have wars in their own area, and as long as we don't hurt innocent people, go at it. Do whatever you want. I personally believe that we should be able to do it right here. If I have a problem with somebody, I should be able to sign a contract and go fist fight, or go duel swords to the death, or do whatever, or have 20 groups of people. And as long as we have contracts and no innocent people are harmed, war should be able to happen. But our government is using religion, and it's not just our government, it's every government throughout history since the dawn of time. And they've always been fighting, and it's still happening. Every country, all these religions are all fighting, and it breaks my heart, and all these innocent people are getting hurt, and I'm not okay with it. And I just want it to stop, and to maybe just let people harm the people that want to harm each other, sign contracts, harm each other, and don't harm innocent people. And that's kind of where I'm at.
The Bible, you talked about people using religion for war or whatever they're using it for their own purposes. Right. The Bible warns us that people will come and they will deceive people. They will, false teachers. I mean, even religious people will come and try to deceive people. That's why it's important to be in the Word and read what the Word says. That way, if they say, well, John Smith was told this. Well, the Bible says not to add to or take away from this. So,
right.
I mean, as far as wars, it says in the Bible, in the last days there will be wars and rumors of wars. I mean, it's not going to stop until the end, until the end times. I mean,
that's our different
until Jesus returns. At least that's what I believe. I mean, right. I know not everyone has to believe that.
No, that's just our different perspective.
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
And
me, I believe that it's never going to get better until we fix it. And if we depend on somebody else to come and fix it, it's never going to get better. And like I said, I just have a different view, and that we are the ones that have to do something at some point to make it better. Otherwise, it's never going to get better, and we're just going to keep giving them the power by saying, well, I hope somebody's going to come along and fix it one day. I'm just going to keep dealing with it until then. And I'm trying to say, no, let's not deal with it anymore, and let's actually change this and work for an idea that will actually be an answer to stop this. And I believe, like the 10 Commandments, that one of the big things is thou shalt not kill. And I believe we should really stand on that. And even if it is with an enemy, I mean, if we could just, like I said, if we could figure out just to harm those that want to do harm to us and have contractual, because when you're hurting innocent people, that's just, you can't do that. And I don't care what country, where you're from, any civilization, any point in time. If you hurt some innocent people, that's wrong, man. And that's just all. As much as it sucks to have to say it like that, there's just no other way to explain it,
I just think, as far as our government goes, our government's lost it. There's no there outside of God doing a miraculous thing. Our federal government. There's no hope for our federal government. Our federal government is so far gone. I mean,
I get a little crazy there too. I believe that we can do anything we set our mind to, and that the only way to kill anything in this world, it doesn't matter whether it's a microorganism or anything, the only way to kill it is to stop feeding it. And if we, the people, clicked on the mindset and said, you know what, I'm not going to pay my taxes anymore. We're run by criminals. I'm going to refuse to be an accessory anymore to these federal government's crimes, and I want to stop paying my taxes. And if we can do what's called a home rule charter, and we decide our own way of life locally, and we stand up and we say, look, we're going to vote in a home rule charter, we're going to secede from the federal government, we're not going to pay any federal taxes anymore, we're going to elect sheriffs that will actually abide by this, and if the federal government steps into our town, our people are going to stand up and arrest the federal government. And at that point, we secede from the federal government, and even if it's only locally, a town, even if it's a small town the size of Gravel, it's 100 people that says, you know what, us 100 people are going to stand up and had enough. Once everybody starts to do that, things will change. And then once people can look and say, hey, that community is prospering because they now have 30% of their taxes that they're putting in their pocket and reinvesting it in their community, and the community is flourishing now that they're not getting robbed and manipulated by the federal government, that's great. And the only people that are going to lose are the people that are robbing us, and that's the federal government. Eventually, over time, we'll either starve the beast, or those that want to keep a part of it, they can have a part of it. Let them be a part of it. But those that want freedom or a different way of life, we peacefully step up, and we don't have to have a bloody revolution or anything. We peacefully step up and say, nope, we're going to do it this way.
I totally agree. I think that's a great idea. If you could get everybody to be like us and want freedom and not pay taxes.
Right.
Well, you have those who think socialism is the answer,
right, and
our government's going to take care of us. It's like,
well, and that's where localism comes in. And right here in this community, I'm sure you know very well, this community likes freedom a lot, and people are moving. I'm sure you've seen the California license plates, but they move here from California because they are running from that, and they say, I want nothing to do with that, and I like the idea of freedom. And so eventually what you're going to have are communities that can step up, and they'll say, we have, and there may be liberal communities or people that want socialism, and they're more than welcome. They should have the freedom to go and try that, as long as you don't take from somebody else. And that's the fundamental problem with socialism, is that in order to make it work, you have to steal from somebody else. So, and logically,
the idea of them not wanting us to own property is the problem.
Right. Yeah, that too. Well, you got to be able to own property, but if you take something from somebody else, somebody has been harmed. So if you could have voluntary socialism where people voluntarily say, okay, I want to pay 60% of my taxes to the government, or, oh, I want to do this, then they voluntarily choose to do that. And that is how socialism should actually be ran, in a voluntary society, not where you come in and the government says, well, I run everything and this is mine. But that's up for them to decide, as long as they don't steal from somebody to make it work. If they have a voluntary socialist society, they should be able to, everybody should be able to be free to do what they want, and they may be able to make it work. I believe that a society more based on freedom away from socialism would flourish much better, but we will see over time. And I think that as long as we don't harm anybody, we should have the freedom to do what we want. And it's just, once we start getting communities together, we can stand up. And I think that this community right here is freedom oriented enough to stand up. And I think we would be able to vote in a home rule charter to where we would secede from the government. I know it sounds crazy, but that's the whole reason I'm running for sheriff. I can't even win, but I'm trying to plant ideas, plant seeds.
Secede from the federal government. I mean, right. Think about this. Okay, socialism. Let's say you've got a group of people. Let's say you got 500 people, right, and they decide they want to create their own socialist community where everyone just helps each other and takes care of everyone. And
right.
What do you do about, you got one guy over here that wants to work his butt off, and I mean, he's building, he's growing crops, and then you got someone over here that's lazy and just wants to live off this guy. Yeah. That's the problem with socialism.
You got to watch the. I
to
personally
beat the guy that don't want to work.
I personally agree with you. As far as socialism, I agree with that. But it sucks because we don't have somebody here from the left, and that's why I would love to have people from both sides. That way, somebody from the left could counter, and they might have threw out a burrito brews on the lazy. You know, that's where we just gotta try, because that right there, it's something as small as that just turns us into a major fight. You know.
Well, I was talking about this guy's a hard worker.
No. I get it. But once you use the L word, that's when it changed everything, and it's so hard to train our brains.
One that doesn't work much. Is that better?
Yes, that is better. One that doesn't work is better. I'm sorry, man, but it's just that's where we start to fight, and that's where the communication breaks down. And as long as we can keep it peaceful, I think that we should be able to sit down and talk like this, and it's going to work great. And that we just exchange different views, and that we can just make it work if we just sit down and we talk about it and we say, well, what logically makes the most sense, and we can debate logic and debate it. And whenever things get a little out of line, we can go, you know. Do you think there's any? What is the most amazing thing that you have seen God do with your own eyes?
The most amazing thing that I've seen God do with my own eyes, I've seen Him raise somebody to life that was dead.
Really?
I don't know if you know Charlene Moore.
Yeah.
I've seen her son raised to life. I mean,
that's a miraculous story.
He had no brain activity.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that goes back to the power of prayer. I believe in the power of prayer.
They called in the family and said, "Hey, this is it."
Yeah. And that's a miraculous story. And so how long did he go without?
I think he went without oxygen for, had to have been over an hour. I mean,
was that long?
They called 911.
Oh, wow.
One of the workers started CPR until the ambulance got there. The ambulance, after they got there, I mean, just the time for the ambulance to get there, he should have been, I mean, that's done. Probably, I don't know, 15, 20, 30, I don't know how long it took. They did shock him and finally did get his heart going again, but I think he had no brain activity for several days. I mean, yeah.
And that
they were basically saying it wasn't about whether he was going to live or die. It was how much longer do you want us to keep these machines on? Because it was the machines. They were basically saying these machines are breathing for him. Right. We take them off. Well, when they finally did take them off,
he flourished.
Yeah.
And once again, I believe in the power of prayer, and we're connected through things. Even this receiving of the digital waves that everybody's seeing this right now, we're connected by things we don't see, and I think that prayer is one of those things. And I watched a community just come together around that young man and just pray and pray and pray, and I think that was a big part of it.
It really brought.
And
as far as I don't know if you knew, but we started a home church. Charlene and Dwayne and Gina and us and several others started a home church. And we had that going just for a short period of time, and when that happened, it just really brought us together like a family.
Right.
I mean, it brings tears to my eyes to this day just thinking about it. I mean, I think it really brought a closeness. I think if that was, I mean, you just wonder why did this happen? Why did these things happen? I think even if it was just to bring us closer together, like a family. I mean, even if it's just for that, I mean, it was worth it. I mean, I don't know. Needless to say, it was an amazing event.
That's beautiful, man. That's really beautiful, and I love seeing it and seeing everybody come together. And it's just, I think that maybe we can bring some kind of. Tesla said once we start studying the unknown and things like this, we'll figure out more in leaps and gains, than we have in all history. And I think that maybe if we could actually prove a science to things like this, I think that, I know it sounds crazy, but our bodies are run on a very small electromagnetics. And like my mom kills watches, like quartz. So quartz is a rock, and if you squeeze quartz, it creates electricity. So quartz watches, the batteries in them aren't even batteries, they're rocks that are just under pressure. And so my mom has energy in her that she puts on a quartz watch or something, it just kills it instantly. I don't know how it is or whatever, but she can't. And like, my brother, he's a musician, and I was like, I want to try and play the guitar the other day. And like when I picked up his guitar, it started making crazy, picking up signals and stuff through his amplifier. It's like, I've never seen anything like that. And so there's just certain, the body obviously has electrical things inside of them. You know what I mean? And I don't know, but I think that there's maybe ways we can test that and test. And I think that when we pray, I think that we create some kind of electric. This is just my scientific assumption, you know, but or some way to search for a way to prove that this is real. So what I want to do is I want to take some kind of microelectric thing that tests the smallest, minutest amount of electricity and put it between people's hands and just have people in a group holding in a circle holding hands and just talking about the weather and just being like, yeah, sure, it's a nice day. And then holding hands and praying as hard as they can, all focused and focusing on something, and see if there's a difference. And if there is a difference, that would be a scientific way to prove that prayer does work. And I know science and prayer is a very question.
They're like they work against
each other. I know, and that's where I'm always trying to unite. I'm trying to unite left and right. I'm trying to unite everything in this world and make it to where we create some kind of peace. You know what I mean? To where we can like coexist. And so that's just why I'm trying to. I know science and religion don't work well together, but just that. If we did that and could prove that alone, that would flip up the science community and flip up the religious community, and it would make everybody look from a little different perspective and go, well, you know, maybe we can, you know, just look at things from a little different or something. I don't know. I'm searching for answers, man. I'm throwing out stuff out there. So, but yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else you think that I don't know? Anything else that you could help? Maybe just help get the word out there for you on your perspective that you might want me to see your perspective from or something.
I would just encourage you, Josh, to. Well, the Bible says, seek truth and pursue it. I mean, if you're wanting to, like, you can't really. There's no way you're going to prove that Jesus rose from the dead. You can't prove that.
Right.
But you can go into the Bible and you can look in the Old Testament and you can see all the prophecies that he fulfilled, and it's like, oh my gosh. The Bible says, there's scriptures in Isaiah that specifically talks about Jesus being crushed for us, and I mean, he was pierced for our transgressions. I mean, I don't know. There's just so much if you look at it.
Right. And
it's almost undeniable. You can still deny it, but it's almost undeniable when you just read all the prophecies that have been.
Well, I'm not necessarily denying the fact that there's Jesus and that he is a good dude and that he was murdered, and I'm not even necessarily denying the crazy stuff that happened. I'm just and even the prophecies, like the prophecies are a little bit. They're just sometimes kind of vague. Like I know psychics, they work off broad, vague things, and they say things, and then people believe them because they predicted this vague thing. And I'm not trying to say that religion's that way, but I'm trying to say that it's just all about perception, and that things could be perceived differently. And it's a hard line to try and walk, and I'm just one of those that has to see things with my own eyes. And even when God, if he created the earth, well, who created God? And I know that's one of those questions there, and that's the same reason I can't go to the Big Bang, because okay, the Big Bang are these cells and whatever manifested. Where did the two atoms come from that manifested itself? It's just logically it's hard to make anything for sure check out, because we weren't there, you know. Honestly, and we just got to have faith, like you said, and it's all in where we determine our faith to be.
Honestly, I don't have a problem with the Big Bang theory.
Right.
I don't.
Right.
God spoke, bang. I mean,
that's a different perspective. See, and that's what I'm saying. We all got, and I appreciate it. I like that perspective, man.
I mean, am I saying that's what happened? Not necessarily,
no,
but
we weren't there.
I don't refute the Big Bang theory. Hey,
right.
It's highly possible that God spoke and bang, it happened.
Right? I don't know. There's just logically, it's just hard to fathom. And like I said, there's a lot of things that we can't even see or understand, and God may be bigger than what we're told. And it's just the books and the things we're told are mankind's perceptions that they've put on us, and they're just the intermediate translator, whether it be somebody from God or whether it be somebody that translated from Hebrew to Greek, and then from Greek to English. The Bible's been translated a lot, and by a lot of different civilizations, and some of those civilizations have had absolute control of the Bible at all times, so they could have put stuff in there. And so there's just so much that's just hard for me to just fully put full faith into, where I'm just a little sketched out personally, and to where I just personally like to see tangible things like Elijah. That's a thing. That's a thing that's right there in front of our face that we can't deny. I can say, well, I don't know if Jesus rose from the dead, but I do know that, I guess Elijah did.
Right.
You know what I mean?
According to the medical field, he was dead. So
and so as hard as that is, so that's where I'm at with everything. Is that I don't necessarily trust all these other histories, and I know that it's a hard thing because we're told what to believe from our small age, and that's what we believe, and that's our core belief, and it's been handed down. But sometimes I don't know that it's all entirely accurate, and it's just sometimes it gets muddied up with stuff. And I think that I'm just trying to look past all of that and just see trying to find out what is real, I'm not trying to break down anybody's views or anything like that. I'm just trying to search for my own and find something that's something for me. And that, I just keep going back to Elijah. That's a good one right there. That's the epitome of something. There's something there, man. There's something. There's
right. The way I look at it, I believe I'm right. Obviously, I believe I'm right. I'm taking it by faith. I put my faith in Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm wrong. Right. If I'm wrong, so I try to do what the Bible says. I try to be a good person. I try to love my neighbor. I try to help people when they needed help. And then I die. And let's just say that's it. What was so bad about my life?
Here's where I feel I love it, and you're right. You didn't do anything wrong. The problem being is that you put your whole faith in God, and while you were here, you had a chance to stop the evil things that were going on in the world and didn't, because you had faith that somebody else would do it. And in turn, that lets the evil prosper and continue on for future generations, and it's never going to stop.
I don't think it's our responsibility to stop the evil. I think it's our responsibility to pray for people. I think it's our responsibility to maybe pray that these people change their mind. There's no way you're personally going to stop people from being evil. I mean, that's why we have prisons and punishment, because there's always going to be sin, there's always going to be evil.
But it's been manipulated. The prison system's manipulated.
Yeah, I don't totally agree with the way things are run, but
I think that a lot of that's what the fundamental thing that gives the government the power is. They say, look, we're going to create and do everything evil, and nobody's going to do anything about it, because they're all good humans that are following Jesus and following this religion, and they're never going to stand up to us because they believe that Jesus is going to come along and do it all for them, and we're just going to get the free reign to do whatever we want, and they're just going to do it forever. And that's where I believe that it's a problem, to where maybe we should try and focus more on trying to help positively ourselves, and just maybe do, like a lot of people say, well, the government should do this, or somebody should do this, and I think that we ourselves should be the ones to try and do it, instead of
in our local community. You've been around long enough.
Yes, sir.
In our local community, have you seen me stand up against evil?
Absolutely, and I commend you for that, buddy.
Doing something about it.
Right.
Am I going to stop it?
No. I'm not saying anything against you personally, but I'm saying there's a lot of people out there that have the mindset, and I'm not saying you. I'm saying that there's so many people in the world that just have not done what you do, and are just like, well, Jesus will take care of them, or I'll pray that Jesus will give them retribution or give them justice, when they die or something. But that's not doing anything about the right here, right now. You know what I mean? And that's not
right. And I have a problem with that. I have a problem with Christians not standing up.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
it really irritates me when they don't show up for children and to stand up for them and get the attitude of, well, we just need to let them do their own thing. That's fine, let them do their own thing, but if it's harming kids or something like that, I mean,
no victim.
In the Bible, yes, Jesus was a loving person. He did kind things for people. He also went and turned over the tables and said, you aren't supposed to be doing this stuff in God's house. I mean, they were like selling stuff and making money in the church, and I mean, Jesus didn't just let stuff happen. I mean, he didn't.
And I think that's what the problem is that we need to step up and be like, we need to try and right some of these wrongs and do what we believe in and do it peacefully and not do it, because the second we become not peaceful, we just blow everything we think we're doing out of the water and we become the bad guy. Once we become violent or want to fight in any way. So yeah, I believe that it's just it's a good thing. I think that religion is a good thing. It's just that it makes kind of people complacent a little bit, maybe, and that's what allows these bad entities to continue on, is people's complacency and not doing anything. And it's just, especially with even voting, it's so hard to get like 10% of the population voted.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know in this last election.
They'll sit on the internet and complain, but they won't do anything about it.
I don't know. We just we got to try and just work together. And as much as it sucks, I mean, I know I don't want to necessarily be out here doing all these interviews and put myself out there, but I think that doing things like this is what's going to maybe twist people's mind a little bit to seeing, or not twist people's mind, but maybe just open up their minds into seeing that there's a different way of doing things, and we don't have to fight and argue, and that we can just work together for solutions. And it sucks to have to put ourselves out there, but I really appreciate your time today, Dan. And
well, on a final note, if there's one thing I can say about what all this we talked about religion and stuff, I'm a big nature guy.
That's right.
I love just being out in the woods here locally, going to the mountains in Colorado or going to a beach. And I mean, when you look around and just look at nature, it's not an accident. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how you can look around and think this is just all a coincidence.
Right.
I mean, I don't.
I think nature's God too. I look around at it and I think that's what the bigger thing is all of us, and this is the most majestic, beautiful thing.
And get out and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people these days are just stuck in their home.
Right.
They come home from work, they pull into their garage, they don't talk to their neighbors, they just pull in their garage, turn on the TV.
But that's what they formed us.
Get out and enjoy.
That's what society's
nature.
That is the greatest. You're spot on, Dan. You're spot on, and I think that society's forming us to be separated.
It doesn't matter if you're a Christian like me, whether you're an atheist.
Right.
You can get out and enjoy. I mean.
Yeah.
That's something we all have in common. We can all enjoy.
That's beautiful, man.
Enjoy nature.
That's a beautiful perspective, brother.
Many people don't, though. Many people just sit at home and. I mean, I enjoy it. I could be sitting at home right now. I'm enjoying being here with you.
Me too.
Even listening to the chirping cicadas. I mean, hey.
Yeah, and I think that's what they want to do, is they just try to divide us by anything they can divide us from, and if they can get us all sitting in our home alone, just pissed off at everybody else,
watching the media.
That's what they want us to do. They want us secluded and just everybody in their own big expensive homes, to where we dedicate all our lives to paying for them, and nobody getting along, and nobody. That's what they want, and so we just got to break that down. And nature is the ultimate, and that's 1,000,000% something we can both agree on. And I think that's where we found our middle ground, and that's where we both see God, is nature, man. And that's great, man. Dude, I really love this interview.
Love you, brother.
I love you, man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Totally enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate y'all.